The tiny golden retriever puppy dropped something at Ryan Mitchell's feet. He looked down. A woman's earring, covered in dry blood. Ryan's heart stopped. He'd seen blood before. 14 years as a Navy SEAL had shown him more than any man should see. But this was different. This was here, in his hometown, on a quiet Tuesday morning. The puppy stared up at him with desperate, pleading eyes, then tugged at his pant leg, pulling him toward the woods. Every instinct screamed danger. Every ounce of training said follow. And when Ryan finally discovered why this trembling puppy had chosen him, it broke him completely. Before we continue, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and follow this story to the very end. I promise you, what happens next will stay with you forever. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels around the world. Ryan Mitchell hadn't slept in 3 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he was back in that village in Afghanistan. The screaming, the gunfire, the face of the child he couldn't save. So he ran instead. Every morning at 0500, just like he had for the past 14 years. His body moved on autopilot through the quiet streets of Ridgewater, Virginia, a town so small it didn't appear on most maps. A town where nothing ever happened. That's why he'd come home. To escape. To forget. To figure out why he was still alive when so many others weren't. Ryan's feet pounded the pavement in a steady rhythm. His Navy NWU Type 3 uniform was faded from too many washes, but it was the only thing he felt comfortable wearing anymore. The green and brown digital camouflage pattern had become his second skin over 14 years. Taking it off felt like shedding his identity, and Ryan wasn't ready to face who he was without it. He was 35 years old, short, dark brown hair that was growing out for the first time since boot camp. A face carved by hard angles and harder experiences. Eyes that had seen too much and showed too little. His mother had died 6 months ago while he was deployed. He'd missed her funeral, missed her last words, missed saying goodbye. Now he was staying in her empty house, surrounded by her things, drowning in memories he couldn't escape. 2 more weeks of leave, then back to Virginia Beach, back to the teams, back to the only life he knew how to live. If he could survive 2 more weeks. Ryan turned the corner onto Miller Road when he first noticed it. Something small moving in his peripheral vision. He glanced back. A puppy. Golden retriever, maybe 4 months old. Cream-colored coat, matted with dirt and something darker. It was watching him with wide, desperate eyes. Ryan slowed his pace. "Hey, little guy, you lost?" The puppy didn't run, didn't bark, just stared at him with an intensity that felt almost human. Ryan looked around for an owner. The street was empty. The houses were dark. The world was still asleep. "Go home," Ryan said, turning back to his run. "I'm not your person." He took 3 steps. The soft patter of tiny paws followed. Ryan stopped, turned. The puppy sat down, head tilted, tail giving a single hopeful wag. "I said go home." The puppy whimpered. Ryan's jaw tightened. He didn't do attachments, didn't do soft, didn't do vulnerable. 14 years in special operations had trained all of that out of him. He turned and ran faster. The puppy ran too. Its tiny legs struggled to keep up, but it refused to fall behind. Ryan pushed harder. The puppy pushed harder. A quarter mile later, Ryan was at full sprint. The puppy was still there, stumbling, panting, but still following. Ryan finally stopped, breathing hard. Not from the run, from the frustration. "What do you want from me?" The puppy sat down, chest heaving, and stared at him with those eyes. Those desperate, pleading, heartbreaking eyes. Then it did something that made Ryan's blood run cold. It turned and walked a few steps away, stopped, looked back, whimpered, and waited. Ryan had seen this behavior before, in military working dogs. Dogs trained to lead their handlers to something important, something dangerous. "What are you trying to show me?" The puppy let out a tiny bark and took another few steps, then looked back again, waiting. Ryan's seal instincts kicked into high gear. Something was wrong. Very wrong. He followed. The puppy led him off the main road and down a narrow path toward the edge of town. With every step, the puppy's anxiety increased. Its breathing became more frantic, its movements more urgent. Then it stopped, sniffed the ground, and started digging. Ryan crouched beside it, watching. The puppy unearthed something and placed it carefully at Ryan's feet. A hair tie. Blue elastic with strands of blonde hair still attached. Ryan picked it up. His stomach tightened. "Where did you get this?" The puppy was already moving again, leading him further down the path. 50 yards later, it stopped again, dug again. This time, it brought Ryan a phone case. Cracked. Pink. With dried blood on one corner. Ryan's heart was pounding now. "Show me more." The puppy seemed to understand. It led him deeper into the woods, stopping every few minutes to unearth another object. A single shoe. A torn piece of fabric. A woman's wallet. Ryan opened the wallet with trembling hands. Driver's license inside. Emma Carter, 28 years old, blonde hair, kind eyes. Address listed as 447 Oak Street, Ridgewater, Virginia. Ryan recognized the name. Emma ran the animal shelter where his mother used to volunteer. His mother had talked about her constantly. "Sweet girl, Ryan. You'd like her. She saves animals that nobody else wants." Ryan stared at the wallet, then at the puppy. The pieces clicked into place. "She saved you, didn't she?" The puppy whimpered. And now something happened to her. The puppy pressed against Ryan's leg, trembling. "And you came looking for help." Ryan looked down at the evidence scattered around him. A woman's belongings, bloodstains, signs of a struggle. This wasn't a missing person case. This was something much worse. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911. "Ridgewater Police Department, what's your emergency?" "This is Lieutenant Commander Ryan Mitchell, U.S. Navy. I need to report a possible abduction. Female victim, name Emma Carter, age 28. I've found personal effects with blood evidence at the eastern edge of town, near the old Miller property." Silence on the other end. Then, "Sir, are you sure? Emma Carter was reported as a voluntary missing person 2 days ago. The sheriff said..." "The sheriff said what?" "That she probably just left town. Happens sometimes with single women. He said there's no evidence of foul play." Ryan looked at the blood-stained phone case in his hand. "I'm looking at evidence of foul play right now. Send someone immediately." "Sir, I'll have to check with Sheriff Davis first." "This is a potential kidnapping. You don't need permission to respond to a kidnapping." Another pause. I'll send someone out, but it might take a while. We're short-staffed this morning." "Then I'll be waiting." Ryan hung up. Something felt wrong. Beyond the obvious wrongness of a missing woman and bloody evidence. Something about the dispatcher's hesitation. The mention of the sheriff. The dismissive attitude. Ryan had operated in enough corrupt environments to recognize the signs. The puppy tugged at his pant leg again, urgent, insistent. "There's more, isn't there?" The puppy turned and started walking deeper into the woods. Ryan followed. The path grew narrower, the trees grew thicker. Civilization fell away behind them. After half a mile, the puppy stopped at the base of an old oak tree. It was shaking violently now, tail tucked, ears flat, terrified, but refusing to leave. Ryan knelt beside it. What happened here? The puppy let out a sound he'd never heard from a dog before. A wail. Pure, heartbroken grief. Then it pressed itself against the tree and started digging frantically. Ryan helped, pushing aside leaves and dirt. His fingers hit something hard. Metal. He pulled it free. A collar. A dog collar with a tag. Scout. That was the puppy's name. Scout. But this collar was too big for the puppy. And there was blood on it. A lot of blood. Ryan looked at Scout. There was another dog, wasn't there? An older one. Scout whimpered. They killed it. Whoever took Emma. They killed your friend. Scout collapsed against Ryan's chest, body shaking with sobs that sounded almost human. And Ryan held him, despite every instinct that said, don't attach, don't feel, don't let anything in. He held the trembling puppy and let it grieve. I'm going to find her, Ryan whispered. I promise you, I'm going to find her. Scout looked up at him, and for the first time, Ryan saw something other than fear in those eyes. Hope. Fragile, desperate hope. Ryan stood, tucking Scout into the crook of his arm. Let's go see what the sheriff has to say about this. The Ridgewater police station was exactly what Ryan expected. Small, outdated, run by people who'd rather not be bothered. Sheriff Tom Davis sat behind his desk, feet up, coffee in hand, looking at Ryan like he was an annoying interruption to an otherwise pleasant morning. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell, the sheriff drawled. Heard you were back in town. Sorry about your mother. Thank you. So what's this about Emma Carter? My boy said you called in some kind of emergency? Ryan set the evidence on the desk. The wallet, the phone case, the bloody collar. I found these in the woods near the Miller property, along with a woman's shoe, a hair tie, and torn clothing. All of them show signs of a violent struggle. Sheriff Davis barely glanced at the items. And where exactly did you find these? I told you. The woods near... how did you find them? You just happened to be walking through the woods at 5 in the morning and stumbled across a crime scene? A puppy led me to them. The sheriff's eyebrows rose. A puppy? Yes, this puppy. Ryan held up Scout. The sheriff laughed. Son, I've been doing this job for 30 years. You know how many times someone's come in here with a wild story about their dog leading them to evidence? It's always nonsense. With respect, Sheriff, I've been doing my job for 14 years. I know what evidence of violence looks like. This is evidence of violence. Or it's evidence of a woman who packed up and left in a hurry. Happens all the time. Emma Carter had no family here, no real ties. She probably just got tired of small-town life and took off. And left her dog behind? Dogs run away. And bled all over her phone case? Could have been anyone's blood. Could have been the dog's. Ryan felt his patience evaporating. Sheriff, are you going to investigate this or not? Davis finally set down his coffee. His eyes hardened. Let me give you some advice, Lieutenant Commander. You've been gone a long time. You don't know how things work around here anymore. This is a quiet town. Peaceful. We don't have kidnappings or violent crimes. We have people who leave and people who stay. Emma Carter left. End of story. And if I don't accept that, then I'd suggest you focus on your leave and let the professionals handle police work. Ryan stared at him. 14 years of reading people in hostile environments told him everything he needed to know. Sheriff Tom Davis was lying, and he wasn't even trying hard to hide it. Thank you for your time, Sheriff. Ryan gathered the evidence and walked out. Scout pressed against his chest, still trembling. "Looks like we're on our own, buddy." As they left the station, Ryan noticed something. A black SUV parked across the street. Tinted windows, engine running. Someone inside, watching them. Ryan memorized the license plate without looking directly at the vehicle. Then he kept walking. His SEAL training kicked into full gear. He was being surveilled, which meant someone was nervous about his questions, which meant Emma Carter hadn't just left town. Someone had taken her, and someone powerful was covering it up. Ryan reached his mother's house and went inside. He set Scout down and pulled out his laptop. Time to do some real investigating. First search: Emma Carter, Ridgewater, Virginia. Local veterinarian. Ran the Ridgewater Animal Shelter for 5 years. No criminal record. No known enemies. No family in the area. Second search: missing persons, Ridgewater, Virginia, past 5 years. 3 results. Jessica Monroe, 24, disappeared 2 years ago. Case closed as voluntary missing person. Amanda Wells, 31, disappeared 18 months ago. Case closed as voluntary missing person. Tracy Lynn, 27, disappeared 8 months ago. Case closed as voluntary missing person. 3 young women, all disappeared. All dismissed by the same sheriff. All forgotten. Ryan felt ice spreading through his veins. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern. Third search: Victor Crane, Ridgewater, Virginia. Wealthy businessman. Owns several properties in the area, including an abandoned farm on the outskirts of town, and a large donation to Sheriff Davis's re-election campaign last year. Ryan leaned back in his chair. The picture was becoming clearer, and it was ugly. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Mitchell." The voice was smooth, cultured, confident. "My name is Victor Crane. I understand you've been asking questions about Emma Carter. News travels fast. In a small town, everything travels fast. I wanted to reach out personally to suggest that perhaps your time would be better spent elsewhere. Emma was a troubled young woman. She had debts, problems. It's not surprising that she decided to start fresh somewhere else. Is that what happened to Jessica Monroe? Amanda Wells? Tracy Lynn?" Silence. "I don't know those names." "I think you do. Mr. Mitchell, you're a decorated military officer, a hero. It would be a shame if your reputation was damaged by chasing conspiracy theories in a town that doesn't want your help." Is that a threat? It's friendly advice, from one successful man to another. Let me give you some advice in return, Mr. Crane. I've spent 14 years hunting the most dangerous people on Earth. Men who would make you wet your expensive pants. If you've hurt Emma Carter or anyone else, I will find out, and I will make sure you answer for it. Enjoy your leave, Lieutenant Commander, and keep that puppy close. Small animals have a way of disappearing around here. The line went dead. Ryan set down the phone. His hands were steady. His heart was calm. This was familiar territory now. An enemy identified. A mission defined. A life to save. He looked at Scout. The puppy was watching him with those desperate, hopeful eyes. "You found the right person, buddy. I don't know how you knew, but you did." Ryan stood up and walked to the closet. Behind his mother's winter coats, behind the boxes of old photos, there was a safe. He opened it. Inside, his service weapon. Night vision goggles, tactical gear, equipment he'd told himself he wouldn't need on leave, equipment he was suddenly very glad he'd brought. "They think this is over," Ryan said, strapping on his holster. "They think I'm just some soldier on vacation who's going to give up and go home." He looked at Scout. They're wrong. The puppy's tail wagged for the first time since Ryan had met him. A small gesture, but it meant everything. Let's go find Emma. Outside, the black SUV was still there, still watching. Ryan smiled. Good. Let them watch. Let them think they knew what was coming. They had no idea. Because Ryan Mitchell wasn't just a Navy SEAL. He was a man who had finally found something worth fighting for. And nothing was going to stop him. Not the sheriff, not Victor Crane, not the darkness that had swallowed this town. Ryan walked toward the edge of town, Scout trotting beside him. The puppy seemed to sense the shift in Ryan's demeanor. No longer lost, no longer searching. Now, hunting. And the hunters didn't even know they'd become the prey. Ryan drove toward Emma Carter's veterinary clinic with Scout pressed against his side. The puppy hadn't stopped trembling since they left the house. But his eyes were different now. Focused, determined. Like he understood exactly what they were doing. You're going to show me everything, aren't you? Ryan asked. Scout looked up at him and let out a soft whine. Agreement. Trust. The clinic was located on a quiet street at the edge of the business district, a small building with a hand-painted sign that read, Ridgewater Animal Care, Dr. Emma Carter. Ryan parked and studied the exterior. The lights were off. The closed sign was hanging in the window. But something about the way it hung bothered him. Crooked, hasty, like someone had flipped it without caring. Emma Carter didn't seem like the type who didn't care. Stay close, Ryan told Scout. The front door was locked. Ryan walked around to the side, a service entrance. Also locked. But the lock was old, simple. Ryan had it open in 30 seconds. Scout squeezed through the gap before Ryan could stop him. The puppy's nose hit the floor immediately, sniffing frantically. Then he started crying. That same heartbroken wail from the woods. Ryan followed him to the back examination room and stopped. The room was destroyed. Cabinets overturned. Medical supplies scattered across the floor, and in the corner, a dark stain that Ryan recognized immediately. Blood. A lot of it. Someone had tried to clean it, but they'd done a poor job. Whoever attacked Emma had been in a hurry, or didn't care about hiding what they'd done. Scout was scratching at a cabinet beneath the examination table. Ryan opened it. Inside, he found a leather-bound appointment book. He flipped through the pages until he reached the last entry. 3 days ago. Home visit, Johnson Farm. Aggressive dog case, 7 p.m. Ryan stared at the words. Johnson Farm. He knew that property. Everyone in Ridgewater did. It had been abandoned for 5 years after Old Man Johnson died. But Ryan's research last night had shown something interesting. The property had been purchased 18 months ago by a shell company. A company traced back to Victor Crane. She went there, Ryan said quietly. And she never came back. Scout whimpered and pressed against his leg. Ryan pulled out his phone and took photos of everything. The blood, the destruction, the appointment book. Evidence that Sheriff Davis would never investigate. Evidence that Ryan would need for what came next. As he turned to leave, something caught his eye. A photograph on Emma's desk. Her and an older golden retriever, both smiling. A caption written in Emma's handwriting. Max, my first rescue, my best friend. 8 years together. Ryan looked at Scout. Max was the older dog, wasn't he? The one whose collar we found? Scout's whole body sagged, like the memory was too heavy to carry. Ryan picked up the photo and tucked it into his jacket. She'll want this back, when we find her. Scout looked up at him, And for just a moment, his tail wagged. Hope. Fragile, but real. Ryan drove toward Johnson Farm, taking back roads to avoid the black SUV that had been following him all morning. He'd lost them near the old mill, but he knew they'd find him again soon. "We need backup," Ryan muttered to Scout. "This is bigger than one man and a puppy." He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in months. 3 rings. Then a familiar voice. "Well, well, Lieutenant Commander Mitchell. Thought you were on leave." "Chief, I need your help." Jake Morrison laughed. They'd served together for 8 years, been through hell and back more times than either could count. "You know I'm retired, right? Got a fishing boat now. Very peaceful." "A woman's been kidnapped. Local law enforcement is compromised. I've got evidence of a trafficking ring operating out of a small town in Virginia." Silence. "Where?" "Ridgewater. About 2 hours from your place." "I can be there by nightfall." "Bring whoever you can trust. This is going to get ugly." "Ugly is my specialty. See you soon, brother." Ryan hung up. Scout was watching him with those intelligent eyes. "Cavalry's coming," Ryan said. "But we can't wait. Emma might not have that long." The road to Johnson Farm was barely a road at all. More like a path that nature was slowly reclaiming. Ryan parked his truck a half-mile away and continued on foot. Scout walked beside him, nose working constantly. Every few steps, the puppy would pause, sniff, then change direction slightly. He was tracking something. Someone. "You can still smell her, can't you?" Scout whimpered. "Show me." The puppy led Ryan off the path and into the dense woods. They walked for 20 minutes. Then Scout stopped. His body went rigid, ears flat, tail tucked, pure terror. Ryan crouched beside him. "What is it?" Scout was staring at a spot about 30 yards ahead. Ryan pulled out his binoculars, and his blood turned to ice. The Johnson Farm wasn't abandoned at all. It was fortified. Chain-link fencing topped with razor wire. Security cameras at every corner. Armed guards patrolling the perimeter. This wasn't a farm. It was a prison. Ryan counted the guards. 4 visible. Probably more inside. Professional equipment. Military-grade weapons. These weren't local thugs. These were trained operators. "What the hell is going on here?" Ryan breathed. Scout pressed against his leg, shaking. But his eyes were fixed on a building at the center of the compound. An old barn, reinforced with new metal siding. No windows. 1 door. Heavily guarded. Ryan's SEAL training screamed at him. High-value target location. Whatever Victor Crane was hiding, it was in that barn. And if Emma was still alive, that's where she'd be. Ryan pulled back into the trees, his mind racing. He couldn't assault this position alone, not without getting himself killed and leaving Emma worse off than before. He needed intel. He needed a plan. He needed Chief and his team to arrive. But most of all, he needed to confirm that Emma was still alive. "Scout," the puppy looked up at him. "I need you to do something brave. Can you do that?" Scout's tail gave a tiny wag. "I need you to get closer. To the barn. Can you smell if Emma's inside?" Scout's ears perked up. He understood. "If they see you, run. Run as fast as you can back to me. Don't let them catch you." Scout pressed his nose against Ryan's hand. A promise. Then he slipped into the undergrowth and started moving toward the compound. Ryan watched through his binoculars, heart pounding. The puppy moved like a ghost, low to the ground, using every bit of cover, like he'd been trained for this. Maybe, Ryan thought, he had been. Military canine programs started training dogs young. Even puppies showed aptitude for certain skills. Scout reached the fence line and paused. His nose worked furiously. Then he started whimpering, scratching at the ground, crying. Ryan's throat tightened. "She's in there." Scout confirmed it. Emma was inside that barn, alive. The puppy turned and started back toward Ryan. But halfway across the clearing, disaster struck. A guard spotted him. "Hey, what the—" The man raised his rifle. Ryan's hand moved to his weapon. But before he could act, Scout did something incredible. Instead of running straight back to Ryan, he darted in the opposite direction, drawing the guard away, protecting Ryan's position. "Smart dog," Ryan breathed. Scout led the guard on a chase through the woods, always staying just out of reach. Finally, after 5 minutes, the guard gave up. "Stupid stray," he muttered, heading back to his post. Scout circled around and rejoined Ryan 10 minutes later, panting, exhausted, but alive. Ryan scooped him up and held him close. "You brave little idiot. You could have been killed." Scout licked his face. No regrets. Ryan carried him back to the truck. His phone buzzed. A text from Chief. "ETA 4 hours. Bringing Reaper and Doc. This better be good." Ryan smiled grimly. 4 hours. Emma had to survive 4 more hours. He just had to make sure nobody moved her before then. Ryan positioned himself on a ridge overlooking the compound. From here, he could see the entire operation. Count the guards, track their patrol patterns, note when shifts changed. Scout lay beside him, occasionally lifting his head to sniff the air, always pointing toward the barn, always confirming Emma's location. "You really love her, don't you?" Scout whimpered softly. "How long have you known her?" The puppy pressed closer. "My mom used to talk about Emma. Said she was special. Said she saved animals nobody else wanted." Ryan's voice caught. "My mom would have wanted me to save her." Scout looked up at him. Understanding. Connection. "I'm going to bring her home, I promise." The afternoon passed slowly. Ryan counted 12 guards total. 4 on the perimeter, 4 rotating between buildings, 4 inside the main house, plus whoever was in the barn with Emma. Too many for a solo assault, but not too many for a SEAL team. At 1800 hours, a vehicle approached the compound. Black Mercedes. Ryan trained his binoculars on the driver. His jaw tightened. Sheriff Tom Davis. The sheriff got out and walked toward the main house. Victor Crane emerged to greet him. They shook hands like old friends, then disappeared inside together. "So that's how it works," Ryan muttered. "The sheriff delivers the victims. Crane does the rest." Scout growled, low and dangerous. "I know, buddy. I know." 30 minutes later, the sheriff emerged. He was carrying a briefcase that he hadn't arrived with. Payment for services rendered. Ryan photographed everything. The handshake, the briefcase, the smug smile on both men's faces. Evidence that would bury them both, if Ryan lived long enough to use it. At 1930 hours, something changed. Guards started moving with purpose. Vehicles were being prepared. Someone was shouting orders. Ryan's stomach dropped. "They're moving her." He grabbed his phone, called Chief. "How far out are you?" "Still 2 hours. What's happening?" "They're mobilizing. Looks like they're about to move the package." "Can you track them?" "Not if they go mobile. I'll lose them in the dark." Chief was silent for a moment. "Can you delay them?" "How?" "You're a SEAL, Mitchell. Figure it out." The line went dead. Ryan looked at Scout. "Looks like we're doing this early." The puppy's ears perked up. Ready. Ryan checked his weapon, counted his ammunition, ran through a dozen tactical scenarios in his head. Every single one ended badly. But staying here and watching Emma disappear forever ended worse. Okay, here's the plan. Scout tilted his head. I'm going to create a distraction, draw their attention away from the barn. You're going to find a way inside and let Emma know help is coming. Scout whimpered. I know it's dangerous, but you're the only one small enough to get through their security. And Emma trusts you. She'll know you wouldn't come back without a reason. The puppy stood up, tail low but determined, scared but willing. If something happens to me, you run. You run as fast as you can and you find Chief. Big guy with a beard. He'll know what to do. Scout pressed his nose against Ryan's hand. Not goodbye, just acknowledgement. Let's go save her. Ryan moved through the darkness like a ghost. 14 years of training guided every step, every breath, every decision. He reached the northwest corner of the perimeter. Guard station. One man. Bored. Scrolling his phone. Amateur mistake. Ryan was behind him in 3 seconds. Sleeper hold. 8 seconds of pressure. The guard went limp. Ryan zip-tied his hands and gagged him. Then he moved to the next position. Scout had disappeared toward the barn. Ryan had to trust him. Had to believe the puppy was as smart as he seemed. Had to focus on his part of the plan. Create chaos. Buy time. Survive. The second guard went down just as easily. The third saw him coming, but hesitated 1 second too long. Ryan's fist connected with his jaw. The guard crumpled. 3 down, 9 to go. Plus whoever was inside. Ryan reached the main generator. Every operation needed power. Take out the power, and chaos followed. He planted the small explosive charge he'd brought. Military grade. Timer set for 90 seconds. Then he ran. 60 seconds. He reached a position behind the main house. 40 seconds. Guards were still unaware, still preparing to move, still confident. 20 seconds. Ryan pulled out his weapon. 10 seconds. He said a prayer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The explosion ripped through the night. The compound went dark, and hell broke loose. Guards shouting, flashlights sweeping, confusion everywhere. Ryan moved. He took down 2 more guards before they knew what hit them. Then gunfire erupted behind him. Someone had spotted him. Bullets tore through the air. Ryan dove for cover. Return fire. 1 shooter down, but more were coming. Scout, Ryan breathed. Please be doing your part. Inside the barn, Scout was doing exactly that. He found a gap in the foundation, too small for a human, perfect for a determined puppy. He squeezed through and found himself in darkness. The smell hit him immediately. Blood, sweat, fear, and underneath it all, something familiar. Emma. Scout followed the scent through the darkness, past boxes and equipment he didn't understand, past doors that were locked and walls that seemed to close in, until he found her. Emma Carter, lying on a concrete floor, hands bound, face bruised, barely conscious, but alive. Scout let out a cry that echoed through the building. Emma's eyes fluttered open. Scout? Her voice was broken, weak, but it was her voice. Scout threw himself against her, licking her face, crying, shaking. You're alive, Emma whispered. Oh God, you're alive. She tried to touch him, but her hands were tied. Scout immediately started gnawing at the rope. How did you find me? Scout just kept working. Outside, the battle was intensifying. Ryan was pinned down. 3 shooters had him cornered, ammunition running low, options running out. "Come on, Chief," he muttered. "Where the hell are you?" As if in answer, headlights appeared on the access road. 2 vehicles, moving fast. For a moment, Ryan's heart sank. Reinforcements for Crane. But then he heard it. The distinctive crack of a long-range rifle. One of the shooters dropped. Then another. "About time," Ryan shouted. Chief's voice echoed through the darkness. "Sorry we're late. Traffic was murder." Ryan grinned despite everything. "Barn! Emma's in the barn!" "On it!" More gunfire, more chaos, but now the chaos was working in Ryan's favor. Inside the barn, Scout had almost chewed through Emma's bonds. 1 more minute, 30 more seconds. The door burst open. A guard rushed in, weapon raised. He saw Emma, saw the puppy, raised his rifle. Scout launched himself at the man's face, snarling, biting, buying Emma the second she needed. The guard screamed, trying to throw the puppy off. Emma's hands came free. She grabbed a metal pipe from the floor and swung with every ounce of strength she had left. The guard dropped. Scout fell with him, rolled and scrambled back to Emma. She scooped him up, tears streaming down her face. "Good boy. Oh, you brave, brave boy." "Emma!" A new voice. Ryan, standing in the doorway, breathing hard, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, but alive. "Can you walk?" "I think so." "Then let's go, now!" Ryan helped her to her feet. Scout refused to leave her arms. Together, they ran into the night. Behind them, the compound was in flames. Victor Crane's empire was burning. And somewhere in the chaos, Sheriff Davis was screaming orders that nobody was following anymore. Chief met them at the perimeter. "Package secure," he said into his radio. "All units, fall back to the rally point." Ryan looked at Emma. She was clutching Scout like he was the only real thing in the world. Maybe he was. "You're safe now," Ryan said. Emma looked up at him, tears streaming, voice breaking. "He found you. I told him to run. I told him to save himself." "But he went to find help instead." Ryan nodded. "He led me to you, every step of the way. He never gave up." Emma buried her face in Scout's fur. "I saved him 2 months ago, found him abandoned, starving. Everyone said he was too weak, too small, that he wouldn't survive." She looked up at Ryan. "But he survived, and then he saved me." Scout licked her tears, and Ryan felt something crack open in his chest. Something that had been frozen for a very long time. The safe house was a cabin 30 miles outside of Bridgewater. Chief had arranged it through contacts Ryan didn't ask about. Some questions were better left unasked. Emma sat on a worn couch, Scout curled in her lap, refusing to be separated from her even for a moment. A medic named Doc was checking her injuries. Bruised ribs, dehydration, cuts and scrapes that would heal. The wounds that wouldn't show were another matter. Ryan stood by the window, watching the road. Every car that passed made his hand move toward his weapon. "She needs a hospital," Doc said quietly, joining him. "Hospital means paperwork. Paperwork means Sheriff Davis finds out where she is." "She's stable, but she's been through hell, Ryan. The psychological damage." "I know." Ryan looked at Emma. She was stroking Scout's fur with trembling fingers, her eyes distant, unfocused. The look of someone who'd seen things that couldn't be unseen. Ryan knew that look. He saw it in the mirror every morning. Chief approached, phone in hand. "Got some intel. Crane's compound is compromised, but he wasn't there when we hit it. Neither was the sheriff." "Where are they?" "Unknown. But there's more." Chief's voice dropped. "The barn wasn't just holding Emma. We found evidence of other victims. Documents, photos, transportation records." Ryan's blood ran cold. "How many?" At least a dozen over the past 3 years. All women. All disappeared from small towns within a 100-mile radius. Where did they go? Overseas. Highest bidder. Ryan, this isn't a local operation. It's an international trafficking ring. And Crane is just one piece of it. Ryan closed his eyes. 14 years fighting terrorists. And the real monsters were right here at home. We need to shut it down. All of it. That's above our pay grade, brother. We need to bring in federal authorities. Federal authorities that Crane might have connections to? We don't know how deep this goes. Chief was quiet for a moment. There might be someone we can trust. Captain Sarah Reyes, State Police Special Investigations. She's been trying to build a case against Crane for 2 years. Can't get anyone to cooperate. How do you know her? She's my ex-wife's sister. Ryan raised an eyebrow. Your ex-wife's sister is leading an investigation into human trafficking? Small world, Chief shrugged. Want me to make the call? Ryan looked at Emma again. She was whispering something to Scout. The puppy was licking her tears. Make the call. An hour later, Captain Sarah Reyes arrived at the cabin. She was tall, mid-40s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. The kind of eyes that had seen too much darkness, but refused to stop looking. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell. She shook his hand firmly. Jake told me what you found. I need to see everything. Ryan handed her the photographs, the documents, the evidence he'd gathered. Reyes studied each item carefully, her expression growing grimmer with every page. This is more than I've gathered in 2 years, she said finally. How did you find all this in 3 days? Ryan nodded toward Scout, who was still glued to Emma's lap. He found it. I just followed. Reyes looked at the puppy, then at Emma, then back at Ryan. The dog led you to her? Led me to evidence. Led me to the compound. Led me to Emma. Ryan's voice tightened. He never stopped trying to save her, even when everyone else gave up. Reyes was quiet for a long moment. I've been chasing Victor Crane for 2 years. Every time I get close, evidence disappears. Witnesses recant. Cases get shut down. She looked at Ryan. Someone powerful is protecting him. Someone in my own department. Maybe higher. Sheriff Davis is involved. I suspected, but I couldn't prove it. Reyes looked at the photographs Ryan had taken. Now I can. Will it be enough? For Davis, yes. For Crane, she shook her head. He'll have lawyers, distance, deniability. Unless we catch him directly, he walks. Then let's catch him directly. Reyes studied Ryan carefully. You're on leave, Lieutenant Commander. This isn't your fight. Ryan looked at Emma. She had fallen asleep, exhausted, with Scout still curled protectively against her chest. Yes, it is. The plan came together over the next 4 hours. Reyes had been tracking a shipment scheduled to leave from a private airfield outside of Richmond. Tomorrow night. Crane always attends the final transfers personally, Reyes explained. He likes to inspect the merchandise before it leaves the country. If we hit the airfield at the right moment, we catch him red-handed. How many hostiles? Unknown. Could be a dozen. Could be more. Security? Private contractors. Well-trained. Well-equipped. Chief whistled softly. That's a lot of firepower for a cargo shipment. It's not cargo, Reyes said grimly. It's women. At least 6 that we know of. Ryan's jaw tightened. Rules of engagement? Officially, I can only authorize observation and documentation. We call in backup once we confirm Crane's presence. And unofficially? Reyes met his eyes. Unofficially, if innocent lives are in immediate danger, you do whatever it takes to protect them. Ryan nodded. Understood. The team spent the rest of the night preparing. Weapons checked, communication equipment tested, escape routes memorized. At some point, Ryan found himself sitting beside Emma. She was awake now, watching Scout sleep in her lap. "You should rest," Ryan said quietly. "I can't close my eyes without seeing it. The barn, the other women, the things they said they were going to do to us." Her voice cracked. Ryan didn't know what to say. He'd spent 14 years learning how to fight. No one had taught him how to comfort. "They're not going to hurt you again," he said finally. "I promise." Emma looked at him. "Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You were just passing through." Ryan was quiet for a long moment. "My mother used to talk about you before she died. She said you were special, that you saved animals nobody else wanted." "Helen Mitchell was your mother?" Ryan nodded. Emma's eyes filled with fresh tears. "She was the kindest woman I ever met. She volunteered at my shelter every week until she couldn't anymore. She used to tell me about her son, the hero." "I'm not a hero." "You came for me. Scout came for you. I just followed." Emma stroked the sleeping puppy's fur. "He found you for a reason. Dogs know things. They sense things." She looked up at Ryan. "Maybe he knew you were the only one who would listen." Ryan didn't have an answer for that, so he just sat with her. Two broken people and a brave little dog, waiting for the dawn. At 0300 hours, Scout suddenly lifted his head. His ears perked, body tensed. Then he let out a low, warning growl. Ryan was on his feet instantly. "What is it?" Chief appeared from the other room, weapon drawn. "We've got company. 2 vehicles approaching. No headlights." "How did they find us?" "Doesn't matter. We need to move." Ryan grabbed Emma's hand. "Come on, now." They ran toward the back of the cabin. Chief covered their retreat, but they were too late. The front door exploded inward. Flashbang grenades filled the room with blinding light. Ryan shielded Emma with his body. Scout was barking frantically. Chaos everywhere. Through the ringing in his ears, Ryan heard voices. "Target acquired! Move! Move! Move!" Not Crane's men. These were professionals. Military-grade tactics. Someone else entirely. Ryan reached for his weapon. A boot connected with his hand. Pain exploded through his wrist. He looked up into the barrel of an automatic rifle. "Don't move, Lieutenant Commander. You're coming with us." Ryan's mind raced. Who were these people? How did they know his rank? What did they want? Then he saw the insignia on the man's uniform, and his blood turned to ice. Federal agents. But not just any federal agents. These were people who operated in the shadows. People who made problems disappear. Ryan had worked with men like this overseas. He knew what they were capable of. "On your knees, hands behind your head." Ryan complied. No choice. Not with Emma beside him. Not with Scout still barking in the corner. "The woman comes with us," the lead agent said. "She's a material witness." Witness to what? That's classified. She's been through enough. She needs medical care, not... She'll receive medical care in a secure facility, far from here. Emma grabbed Ryan's arm. "Don't let them take me. Please, please don't let them." "Ma'am, this isn't a negotiation." 2 agents moved toward her. Scout launched himself at them. 4 pounds of fury against 200 pounds of trained operator. It wasn't even close. One agent backhanded the puppy across the room. Scout hit the wall with a yelp and crumpled to the floor. "No!" Emma screamed and lunged for him. An agent grabbed her. She fought, kicked, scratched. They subdued her with brutal efficiency. Ryan watched helplessly, rage building in his chest. "She's a victim," he said through clenched teeth, "not a criminal." She's a complication, the lead agent replied. And so are you, Lieutenant Commander. Your interference in this operation has created significant problems. What operation? The agent smiled. Victor Crane has been a valuable asset to certain interested parties for over a decade. The intelligence he provides is worth more than a few missing women. Ryan felt the world tilt beneath him. You're protecting him. We're protecting national security interests. By letting him traffic human beings? Sacrifices are sometimes necessary. Ryan's vision went red. 14 years of service. 14 years of believing he was fighting for something good. And this was the truth behind the curtain. You're monsters. We're pragmatists. The agent turned to his men. Secure the woman. Clean this site. Make sure nothing traces back to us. And the SEAL? The agent looked at Ryan, cold, calculating. Tragic accident. Decorated veteran, struggling with PTSD, takes his own life in his mother's empty house. Ryan's heart stopped. They were going to kill him, make it look like suicide, and no one would ever know the truth. Move him to the vehicle. We'll handle it on site. Two agents hauled Ryan to his feet. His mind raced through options, none of them good. Then, from the corner of the room, a sound, a whimper. Scout was moving, hurt but not broken. The puppy dragged himself toward Emma, crying with every step. The lead agent glanced at him with disgust. Someone put that thing down. An agent raised his weapon. No! Emma's scream cut through the chaos. She threw herself against her captors, fighting with strength that shouldn't have been possible. The distraction was momentary, but it was enough. Ryan moved. 14 years of training compressed into 3 seconds. He broke free from the agents holding him, grabbed the nearest weapon, put 2 rounds into the ceiling. Everyone froze. Nobody moves. Ryan's voice was calm, deadly. The voice of a man who had nothing left to lose. You're going to release her. You're going to leave the dog. And you're going to walk out of here. Now. The lead agent laughed. You can't shoot all of us. No, but I can shoot you. And I will. The moment anyone moves. Silence. The agent's smile faded. You're bluffing. Try me. For a long moment, nobody breathed. Then, from outside, the sound of vehicles, multiple, approaching fast. The lead agent's radio crackled. Sir, we've got state police incoming. Multiple units. They're surrounding the cabin. Captain Reyes. She must have had a backup team. Must have been tracking them. The agent's face went pale. This isn't over, Lieutenant Commander. Yes, it is. The agents retreated, disappearing into the night as quickly as they'd appeared. Seconds later, Reyes burst through the door. Everyone okay? We're alive, Ryan lowered his weapon. But they took Emma. No, Reyes shook her head. I saw them leave. They didn't have her. Ryan spun around. Emma was huddled in the corner, shaking, crying, but free. And in her arms, Scout was licking her face. Weak, hurt, but still fighting, still protecting her. Ryan crossed the room in 3 steps and dropped to his knees beside them. Are you okay? Emma nodded, unable to speak. Scout whimpered and reached his nose toward Ryan. Ryan took the puppy gently from Emma's arms, checked him for injuries, bruised ribs, possible concussion, but alive. You brave little idiot, Ryan whispered, tears burning in his eyes. You saved her again. Scout licked his face, and Ryan broke. All the walls he'd built, all the defenses he'd constructed, all the emotions he'd suppressed for 14 years, they crumbled. He held the trembling puppy against his chest and cried. For Scout, for Emma, for his mother, for every broken thing he'd never been able to save. Emma wrapped her arms around both of them, 3 shattered souls, holding each other together. Reyes watched in silence, then quietly stepped outside, giving them the moment they needed, the moment they'd earned. An hour later, they were in a new safe house, one that Reyes guaranteed was secure. Doc had examined Scout thoroughly. "He's tough," the medic said. "Few cracked ribs, but he'll heal. Puppies are resilient." "He's more than resilient," Ryan said. "He's a miracle." Emma was asleep in the next room, sedated, finally resting. Chief sat across from Ryan, expression grave. "Those weren't ordinary federal agents." "I know. If they're protecting Crane, this goes higher than we thought. Much higher." "I know. We might not be able to stop them, Ryan. They have resources we can't match." Ryan looked at Scout. The puppy was sleeping on his lap, exhausted but peaceful. Trusting. Completely trusting. "I don't care how high it goes," Ryan said quietly. "I don't care how powerful they are. They traffic human beings. They murdered innocent women. They tried to kill us." He looked at Chief. "I spent 14 years fighting enemies overseas. Enemies who wanted to destroy everything I believed in. I never questioned, never hesitated, never stopped." His voice hardened. "I'm not stopping now. Not for them, not for anyone." Chief studied his friend for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Then let's finish this." "How?" "The airfield. Tomorrow night. Crane will be there personally. If we can capture him, get him on record, expose everything he knows about who's protecting him, we burn them all down. We burn them all down." Ryan stroked Scout's fur. The puppy stirred, looked up at him. Those innocent, trusting eyes. "You started this," Ryan whispered. "You found me when nobody else could. You led me to the truth when everyone else wanted it buried." Scout's tail gave a tiny wag. "Let's finish it together." The puppy pressed closer. Agreement. Partnership. Purpose. And somewhere in the darkness, Victor Crane was running out of time. The airfield appeared on their monitors at 2100 hours. Private property. No official flight records. The perfect place to make people disappear. Ryan studied the satellite imagery while Scout lay at his feet, still recovering from his injuries, but refusing to leave Ryan's side. 6 buildings, Chief said, pointing at the screen. "Main hangar here. Secondary storage here. Control tower, obviously abandoned. 3 smaller structures we can't identify." "Guards?" "At least 20, maybe more. These aren't the local boys we hit at Johnson Farm. These are Crane's A-team." Reyes leaned over the table. "My informant says the shipment arrives at midnight. 6 women from different locations. Crane inspects them personally before they're loaded onto the plane. Destination? Southeast Asia. After that, they're ghosts." Ryan's jaw tightened. "How long do we have once they arrive?" 30 minutes, maybe less. Once they're on that plane, they're gone forever. Then we don't let them get on the plane." Chief exchanged a glance with Reyes. "Ryan, we've got 4 operators and a handful of state police. Against 20-plus trained contractors with home field advantage? I've faced worse odds. Not with civilians in the crossfire." Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at Scout. The puppy raised his head, sensing Ryan's attention. "He went into that compound alone," Ryan said quietly. 4 pounds against a dozen armed men. He didn't calculate the odds. He didn't weigh the risk. He just knew someone he loved needed help, and he went. He looked at Chief. "Those women in that hangar have families, people who love them, people who are praying for miracles right now." Ryan stood. "I'm their miracle, whether I'm ready or not." Chief studied him for a long moment, then smiled. "Damn, brother. When did you get so philosophical?" "Somewhere between the puppy and the existential crisis." Fair enough. Chief turned to the team. All right, let's go save some lives. Emma was waiting when Ryan went to gear up. She'd refused to stay at the safe house, refused to be left behind. You're not going without me, she said. Emma, they took me. They killed Max. They would have sold me to monsters on the other side of the world. Her voice was steady, despite the tears in her eyes. I need to see this end. I need to know they can't hurt anyone else. Ryan wanted to argue, wanted to protect her from more violence. But he saw something in her eyes. The same thing he saw in Scout's. A refusal to give up, a need to fight back. You stay with Reyes, in the command vehicle, no matter what happens. I will. Promise me. Emma took his hand. I promise, but Ryan, promise me you'll come back. He looked at her, at this woman he'd known for only 3 days, but 3 days that felt like a lifetime. I'll come back. Scout pushed between them, pressing against both their legs, binding them together. Emma knelt and hugged the puppy. You take care of him, she whispered into Scout's fur. Bring him home. Scout licked her face. A promise. The assault began at 23:47 hours, 13 minutes before the shipment was scheduled to arrive. Ryan led the team through the eastern perimeter, while Chief took the western approach. Reyes coordinated from a van 200 meters out. I've got eyes on 12 hostiles, she reported through the earpiece. 6 patrolling the perimeter, 4 stationed at the hangar, 2 in the tower. Copy. Moving to position Alpha. Ryan crept through the darkness, Scout matching his every step. The puppy shouldn't have been there, was too injured, too small, too vulnerable. But Scout had refused to stay behind, had followed Ryan out of the safe house and into the vehicle before anyone could stop him. And somehow, having the little dog at his side made Ryan feel stronger, braver, like he wasn't alone anymore. They reached the fence line. 2 guards patrolling, talking, laughing, not expecting trouble. Ryan waited for them to separate, then moved. The first guard went down silently. The second saw him coming, started to raise his weapon. Scout darted forward and bit the man's ankle. Not hard enough to cause real damage, just enough to distract. Ryan finished him before he could make a sound. 2 down, he whispered into his comm. Same here, Chief responded. Perimeter's clearing. Move to Phase 2. They regrouped at the hangar entrance. Chief, Ryan, and 2 of Reyes's most trusted officers. 4 against at least a dozen. Bad odds. But not impossible. Stack up, Ryan ordered. They positioned themselves around the door. Ryan held up 3 fingers. 2. 1. He kicked the door open. Flashbang in. Explosion of light and sound. They moved. The contractors were good, but Ryan's team was better. 4 dropped in the first 5 seconds. 3 more as they tried to regroup, but the rest were recovering, returning fire. Bullets tore through the air. Ryan dove behind a stack of crates. Scout pressed against him, trembling but silent. 6 still active, Chief shouted over the gunfire. Working on it, Ryan popped up, dropped one, moved, dropped another. The contractors were falling back, regrouping near a secondary entrance. Then a new voice cut through the chaos. That's enough. Everyone froze. Victor Crane stepped into the light. He was holding a woman by the throat. Young, terrified. A gun pressed to her temple. Drop your weapons, or she dies. Ryan's blood ran cold. The other women were huddled behind Crane. 5 of them. Bound, gagged, eyes wide with terror. This was what he'd come to stop. This was the evil he'd sworn to destroy. And now it had a human shield. You must be the famous Lieutenant Commander Mitchell, Crane said smoothly. I've heard a lot about you. The war hero. The patriot. The man who couldn't leave well enough alone. Let her go, Crane, I don't think so. See, this young lady is worth quite a lot of money to some very important people. And you've just cost me a great deal of my investment. It's over. The FBI knows everything. Your protectors can't save you this time. Crane laughed. You think the FBI is going to touch me? I have insurance, Lieutenant Commander. Files, recordings, evidence of corruption that goes all the way to the top. If I go down, I take half of Washington with me. Ryan's grip tightened on his weapon. Crane smiled. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to let me walk out of here with my merchandise. And in exchange, I won't have this pretty young thing's brains splattered all over the floor. You won't shoot her. She's worth too much. She's worth money, but my freedom is worth more. Crane pressed the gun harder against her temple. Last chance. Ryan's mind raced. He could take the shot. Maybe. But if he missed, if he hesitated, an innocent woman would die. The same calculation he'd faced 100 times in combat. The same impossible choice. Then Scout did something no one expected. The puppy stepped forward, away from Ryan, toward Crane. Scout, no! But the puppy didn't attack, didn't bark, didn't growl. He just walked slowly toward Crane and sat down, looking up at the man with those innocent, trusting eyes. Crane frowned. What the hell? Scout whimpered, softly, pitifully. The sound of a lost, scared puppy looking for kindness. The woman in Crane's grip sobbed. The other women cried. And for just a moment, just a fraction of a second, Crane's attention shifted. Ryan moved. His bullet hit Crane's shoulder. The gun flew from his grip. The woman dropped to the floor, screaming. Chief and the team rushed forward. Crane tried to run. Ryan tackled him. They hit the ground hard. Crane swung. Ryan blocked, countered. Years of combat training against a businessman who'd never thrown a real punch. It wasn't even close. 30 seconds later, Crane was face down on the concrete, hands zip-tied behind his back. Victor Crane, you're under arrest for human trafficking, kidnapping, murder, and about 50 other charges I'll think of on the way to the station. Crane spat blood. You have no idea what you've done. The people I work for can join you in prison. Ryan stood and looked around. 6 women, terrified but alive. Safe. Finally safe. Chief was already cutting their bonds, speaking softly, reassuringly. It's okay. You're safe now. We've got you. Ryan looked for Scout. The puppy was sitting exactly where he'd been, watching, waiting. Ryan walked over and knelt beside him. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen anyone do, and I've seen a lot of brave things. Scout's tail wagged. You distracted him. You knew exactly what you were doing. The puppy pressed his nose against Ryan's hand. Of course he did. He'd always known. Ryan scooped Scout into his arms and held him close. We did it, buddy. We got them all. Scout licked his face. Victory. Relief. Love. Reyes arrived with the backup units moments later. Crane and his surviving contractors were loaded into vehicles. The women were wrapped in blankets, given water, promised safety. Emma ran across the tarmac the moment she saw Ryan. She threw her arms around him, crying. Scout squirmed between them, demanding to be included. You did it, Emma sobbed. You actually did it. We did it. Ryan looked at Scout. All 3 of us. Emma pulled back, wiping her eyes. What happens now? Now Crane talks. He gives up everyone who protected him, everyone who funded him, everyone who looked the other way, and they all go to prison. Will they really? People like that always seem to escape. Ryan looked at Reyes, who was supervising the arrests, with grim satisfaction. Not this time. We've got too much evidence, too many witnesses, too many people who want to see this end. He took Emma's hand. It's over. But even as he said the words, Ryan knew it wasn't completely true. The trafficking ring would be dismantled. Crane would go to prison. Sheriff Davis would face justice. But the shadow agents who'd tried to silence them were still out there, still watching, still protecting their interests. Ryan had made powerful enemies tonight. Enemies who wouldn't forget. Enemies who would wait for their chance to strike back. But that was a problem for another day. Right now, in this moment, they had won. And that was enough. The aftermath took hours. Statements to federal agents, medical examinations for the victims, evidence collection that would take days to complete. Ryan sat on the bumper of an ambulance, Scout in his lap, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Chief sat beside him. Hell of a night. Yeah. You know those shadow guys are going to come back, right? I know. What are you going to do about it? Ryan stroked Scout's fur. The puppy had finally fallen asleep, exhausted but content. I spent 14 years fighting enemies I didn't choose, following orders I didn't question, serving a mission I believed in. He looked at Chief. But this, what happened here, this was my choice. My mission. For the first time, I'm fighting because I want to, not because someone told me to. And it feels right. Ryan's voice was quiet, but certain. Whatever comes next, I'll face it, because I know now what I'm supposed to be doing. And what's that? Ryan looked at Scout, then at Emma, who was helping one of the rescued women into a vehicle. Then at the sun, rising over a world that was a little bit safer than it had been yesterday. Protecting people who can't protect themselves, starting with the ones nobody else sees. Chief nodded slowly. That's a good mission, brother. Best one I've ever had. Scout stirred in Ryan's lap, opened his eyes, looked up at Ryan with that same trusting, devoted gaze he'd had since the moment they met. You started all this, Ryan whispered. A tiny puppy who wouldn't give up, who kept following a stranger until he listened. Scout's tail wagged. You saved Emma. You saved those women. You saved me. The puppy licked Ryan's chin. No big deal. Just doing what needed to be done. Ryan held him closer, and for the first time since he could remember, the weight on his chest felt lighter. The nightmares felt farther away. The future felt possible. Emma appeared beside them. They're taking the last victim to the hospital. She's going to be okay. They're all going to be okay, Ryan said, because of what we did tonight. Because of what you did. Emma sat beside him. I just watched. You survived. That's not nothing. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then she leaned her head against Ryan's shoulder. What happens now? After all the statements and the trials and the media circus? I don't know. Do you have to go back? To the Navy? Ryan thought about it. His leave was almost over. He was expected back at Virginia Beach in a week. Back to the teams. Back to the life he'd known for 14 years. But something had changed. He had changed. I don't know, he said again, but I know I'm not the same person who drove into this town a week ago. Who are you now? Ryan looked at Scout, then at Emma, then at the sunrise. Someone who finally has a reason to come home. Emma took his hand. Scout pressed against both of them, and as the sun rose over the airfield, 3 broken souls sat together, finding peace in the midst of chaos, finding hope in the aftermath of darkness, finding each other in the most unexpected way possible. Because a tiny puppy had refused to give up, because he'd chosen a stranger who turned out not to be a stranger at all, because love, real love, doesn't calculate odds or weigh risks. It just keeps going, keeps following, keeps fighting, until it finds the miracle it's been looking for. 6 months had passed since the airfield. Ryan Mitchell stood at the window of his mother's house, watching Scout chase a butterfly across the yard. The puppy wasn't so tiny anymore. 6 months of good food and unconditional love had transformed the starving, trembling creature into a healthy, energetic young dog. But those eyes hadn't changed. Still trusting, still devoted, still seeing something in Ryan that Ryan was only beginning to see in himself. "You're doing that thing again," Emma said from behind him. "What thing?" "The brooding thing, standing at the window, looking contemplative." Ryan smiled. "Old habits." Emma wrapped her arms around him from behind. "You know what today is?" "Tuesday." "It's the day you're supposed to give Captain Morrison your answer." Ryan's smile faded. Chief had called 2 weeks ago with an offer, a new unit being formed, specialized in domestic operations, counter-trafficking, protection of vulnerable populations. Everything Ryan had been doing unofficially for the past 6 months, but with resources, authority, and legitimacy. "I don't know if I'm ready," Ryan said quietly. "Ready for what?" "To put on a uniform again, to follow orders, to be part of a system that—" He trailed off. They both knew what he meant. The shadow agents who'd tried to silence them were still out there. The investigation into their involvement had hit walls. Classified files, redacted documents, witnesses who suddenly couldn't remember anything. Whoever was protecting Crane's network still had power, still had reach, still had the ability to make problems disappear. "You're not the same man who wore that uniform before," Emma said. "And this isn't the same mission." "How do you know?" "Because you're not fighting for abstract ideals anymore. You're fighting for something real, something you've seen, something you've touched." She turned him to face her. "You're fighting for Scout, for me, for every woman in that hangar who would be gone forever if you hadn't listened to a scared little puppy." Ryan looked at her. 6 months. That's all it had been. But it felt like a lifetime. Emma had moved into his mother's house after her apartment was destroyed by Crane's men. Temporary at first, just until she found a new place. But temporary had become permanent. Natural. Right. "What if I fail?" Ryan asked. "What if I can't make a difference?" "You already have." Emma took his hand. "Come with me. There's something you need to see." She led him to the living room where her laptop was open on the coffee table. "I got an email this morning from one of the women we rescued." She clicked on a video file. A young woman appeared on screen. Sarah, 23 years old. She'd been taken from a parking lot in Richmond, held for 2 weeks before the airfield raid. Ryan remembered her face from that night. Terrified, broken, convinced she was going to die. But the woman on the screen wasn't broken anymore. "Mr. Mitchell?" Sarah said, her voice steady despite visible emotion. "I don't know if you'll ever see this, but I needed to try. I needed you to know what you did for me." She took a breath. 6 months ago, I had given up. I was in that hangar, waiting to be loaded onto a plane, knowing I would never see my family again. I had accepted that my life was over. Tears spilled down her cheeks. And then you came. You and that little dog who wouldn't give up. I watched him walk toward that monster like he didn't know the meaning of fear, and I thought, if that tiny puppy can be that brave, maybe I can too. She wiped her eyes. I'm back in school now. I'm seeing the therapist. I'm rebuilding my life. And every time I feel like giving up, I think about Scout. I think about you. I think about the people who refused to look away when everyone else did. Her voice broke. You saved my life, Mr. Mitchell. But more than that, You showed me that there's still good in the world, that there are still people who will fight for strangers, who will risk everything for someone they've never met. She looked directly at the camera. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you. The video ended. Ryan stared at the screen. His eyes were burning. His throat was tight. Emma squeezed his hand. She's not the only one. I've gotten messages from 4 of the 6 women. They all say the same thing. You gave them hope. You showed them that they matter. Ryan couldn't speak. All those years in the teams, all those missions, all those enemies neutralized and objectives achieved. None of it had ever felt like this. None of it had ever made him feel like he was actually changing something. This is what you're meant to do, Emma said softly. Not fighting wars for politicians. Not following orders from people who trade human lives for political convenience. This. Scout bounded into the room, muddy paws and all. He jumped onto the couch and pressed himself against Ryan's side, tail wagging furiously. Even he knows, Emma laughed. Look at him. He's telling you to stop being dramatic and make the call. Ryan looked at Scout, the dog who had started everything. The 4-pound miracle who had walked into his life and refused to leave until Ryan became the man he was supposed to be. You really think I can do this? Scout barked. Once. Emphatic. Yes. Ryan pulled out his phone, dialed Chief's number. Morrison. I'm in. Silence. Then, took you long enough, brother. Welcome to the team. The ceremony was held 3 weeks later, a small affair, private. Only people who had been part of the operation. Chief administered the oath. Ryan raised his right hand and swore to protect and defend. The same words he'd spoken 14 years ago. But different now, because he understood what they meant. Not defending a flag, not serving a government, protecting people, real people. Sound familiar? Ryan opened the folder, looked at the photographs. 3 faces, 3 lives, 3 people who needed a miracle. When do I leave? Tomorrow. Chief and the team are already mobilizing. Ryan nodded. I'll be ready. Reyes started to leave, then paused. Mitchell, one more thing. Yes? The shadow agents, the ones who protected Crane. We've been digging, quietly, carefully. Ryan's attention sharpened. And? We found something, a name, a connection we didn't have before. She lowered her voice. This goes high, Mitchell. Higher than I thought possible. We're talking cabinet level, maybe higher. Who? I can't tell you yet. Not until we have more evidence. But I wanted you to know, we haven't forgotten. We're not going to let them get away with it. Ryan met her eyes. Neither am I. Reyes nodded. I know. That's why I'm telling you. Because when the time comes, we're going to need someone willing to go all the way. Someone who isn't afraid of powerful enemies. I spent 14 years hunting the most dangerous people on Earth. Politicians don't scare me. They should. Politicians can destroy you in ways enemies never could. Then I'll destroy them first. Reyes smiled grimly. That's what I was hoping you'd say. That night, Ryan sat on the porch of his mother's house. His mother's house. He still thought of it that way, even though it was his now, his and Emma's, and Scout's. The dog lay at his feet, watching the fireflies dance across the yard. Emma sat beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. You're thinking about what Reyes said. Yeah. The shadow agents? The fact that someone at the highest levels of government was willing to let women be trafficked to protect their political interests. Emma was quiet for a moment. Will you go after them? When the time is right. when we have enough evidence, when we can take them down without getting destroyed in the process. And until then, Ryan looked at the folder on his lap. 3 missing women. Until then, I do what I can, save who I can, build a team, gather resources, become someone they can't ignore. That sounds like a war. It is a war. It always has been. I just didn't realize I was fighting on the wrong front. Scout lifted his head and rested it on Ryan's knee. Those trusting eyes, that unwavering devotion. He started all this, you know, Ryan said. One scared little puppy who refused to give up, who kept following the stranger until he listened, who led me through the darkness to find the light. He chose you. I still don't know why. Emma smiled. I do. Dogs sense things. They know who's good and who's broken and who needs saving as much as the people they're trying to save. She stroked Scout's fur. You needed him as much as I did. Maybe more. Ryan didn't argue. It was true. 6 months ago, he'd been a man running from his demons, hiving in empty routines, waiting to either find a reason to live or a reason to stop trying. Scout had given him both. I love you, Ryan said. The words came out before he could stop them, before he could second guess, before he could retreat behind the walls he'd spent 14 years building. Emma lifted her head. Her eyes were bright with tears. What did you say? I love you. I love Scout. I love this life we're building. I love who I'm becoming because of you both. He took her hands. I spent so long thinking I wasn't capable of this, that the things I'd done, the things I'd seen, had broken something inside me that couldn't be fixed. But you showed me I was wrong. You and this ridiculous dog who saved the world by refusing to stop following a stranger. Emma laughed through her tears. He is pretty ridiculous. He's perfect. Scout's tail wagged. He knew they were talking about him. He always knew. I love you too, Emma said. I have since the night you walked into that barn and told me I was safe. I looked at you, covered in blood and exhaustion, and I thought, this is a man who would die for someone he's never met. This is a man who understands what it means to protect. She kissed him, soft, tender, full of promise. Scout squeezed between them, demanding to be included. They laughed and made room for him. 3 broken souls who had found each other. 3 survivors who had become a family. What do we do now? Emma asked. Ryan looked at the folder, at Scout, at the woman he loved, at the life that had seemed impossible 6 months ago, but now felt like the only thing that made sense. Now, we keep going. We save who we can. We fight for the people who can't fight for themselves. And we never, ever give up. That sounds exhausting. Probably. I'm in. Ryan smiled. I know. The next morning, Ryan loaded his gear into the truck. Scout sat in the passenger seat, ready for adventure. Emma stood on the porch, arms crossed, trying to look stern and failing completely. Don't do anything stupid, she called. Define stupid. Anything that gets you killed. I'll try. You'd better. Ryan walked back to her and kissed her goodbye. I'll be back in a week, maybe 2. I'll be here, with your stupid dog who isn't allowed to go on dangerous missions anymore, Scout barked from the truck, objecting. He's not coming this time, Ryan said. Chief's orders. Apparently we can't keep bringing a dog into combat situations. Probably wise. Probably. But Ryan looked at Scout, and Scout looked at Ryan, and they both knew that when it really mattered, rules wouldn't stop either of them. I love you, Emma said. I love you too. Come home. Always. Ryan got in the truck. Scout immediately pressed against his side. Even for a routine drive to the airfield, the dog wasn't letting him out of sight. "You know the rules," Ryan said. "No combat missions. You stay with the support team." Scout's ears flattened. Disagreement. "I mean it. You're too important. To me, to Emma, to the people we're going to help." Scout whined. "No." A pause. Then Scout licked Ryan's face. Agreement. Reluctant, but real. "Good boy." They drove in comfortable silence. The road stretched ahead. New mission. New purpose. New beginning. 6 months ago, Ryan had been a broken man searching for a reason to keep breathing. Now he had more reasons than he could count. A woman who loved him. A dog who had saved him. A team who trusted him. A mission that mattered. And enemies who were about to learn that some people refused to be silenced. Ryan looked at Scout. "You started all of this. You know that, right?" Scout's tail wagged. A scared little puppy who wouldn't stop following a stranger, who kept bringing evidence until someone listened, who led me into darkness so we could both find the light. The dog pressed closer. "I don't know why you chose me. I don't know how you knew I was the one who would listen. But I'm grateful. Every day. For the rest of my life." Scout looked up at him. Those trusting, devoted, fearless eyes. The eyes that had seen evil and refused to look away. The eyes that had found hope in the most hopeless situation. The eyes that had changed everything. "I promise you," Ryan said quietly, "I'll never stop fighting. For Emma. For the women we haven't saved yet. For every person who's ever been told they don't matter." He scratched behind Scout's ears. "We're going to change the world, buddy. One rescue at a time." Scout barked. Agreement. Partnership. Purpose. The truck reached the airfield. Chief was waiting with the team. New faces. New capabilities. A new mission that would take them to the other side of the country. Ryan got out and walked toward them. Scout trotted beside him. Chief raised an eyebrow. "I thought we agreed no dog on combat missions." "He's just here to see me off." "Uh-huh." "I'm serious." Scout sat down at Ryan's feet and looked up at Chief with innocent eyes. Chief laughed. "That dog is the worst liar I've ever seen." "He learned from the best." "Yeah, you are pretty terrible at it." Chief clapped Ryan on the shoulder. "You ready?" Ryan looked at his team, at Scout, at the future stretching out before them. "Yeah, I'm ready." "Then let's go save some lives." They boarded the plane. Scout stayed on the tarmac, watching, waiting. As the doors closed, Ryan looked back at the dog who had changed his life. The dog who had refused to give up. The dog who had taught him what it meant to love unconditionally and fight relentlessly, and hope when hope seemed impossible. "I'll be back," Ryan said quietly. Scout's tail wagged once. "I know." The plane took off. Ryan watched the ground fall away. New mission, new beginning, new purpose, but the same promise. To fight for the voiceless, to protect the vulnerable, to never stop until everyone was safe. Because a tiny puppy had shown him that miracles were possible, that love was stronger than fear, that one person, one determined soul, could change everything. The puppy had kept following a Navy SEAL until he listened, and when Ryan finally understood why, it didn't just make him cry. It made him whole. It gave him back his purpose. It showed him who he was meant to be. Not a weapon, not a soldier. A protector. A guardian. A man who would never look away from suffering. Never abandon those who needed him. Never stop fighting until every last person was safe. Scout had known it from the beginning, had seen it in Ryan before Ryan saw it in himself. That's why he chose him. That's why he kept following. That's why he refused to give up. Because some souls recognize each other. Some bonds transcend explanation. And some tiny, scared, determined puppies know exactly who they're looking for, even when that person doesn't know themselves yet. Ryan Mitchell had been lost. Scout had found him. And together, they had found their way home.